2025 Monster Manual is here, and while it brings some exciting updates, not all changes are created equal. Today, we're comparing the 2014 and the 2025 Monster Manuals to see what's improved, what's been simplified, and what might leave veteran DMs scratching their heads. I'm David, aka Evil Penguin, and let's roll. The 2025 Monster Manual is visually very nice. The artwork is more dynamic and detailed, and the layout is more visually appealing. However, the downside of the more detailed artwork is now this artwork isn't necessarily appropriate to show players anymore, as it can give clues to the abilities or weaknesses the creatures might have that the characters wouldn't necessarily have knowledge of. Although the new artwork could be helpful to DMs for the very same reason, so it's a trade-off, I suppose. But for all the talk about improved organization, I was expecting, well, not this. On the D&D Beyond site, at least, creatures are not listed by general type like dragons, giants, etc. in the main index, like in the 2014 edition, but instead blue dragon is a separate listing from red dragon. Now, if you want creatures by type or CR or habitat, this is on a separate page. Maybe I'll come to love this later on as I start building the counters from it, but right now the jury's kind of out. It also feels weird that they eliminated the section on NPCs, opting to make me look for them individually now. I guess overall I'm just disappointed by the general organization because it was specifically hyped how much better an organization this book would be compared to the 2014 Monster Manual. I like the fact that there is now an expansion of creature types. For example, vampires now have more variety with different stat blocks for vampire lords, spawn, and other variants. This definitely gives me more options for a variety of encounters with a particular theme. I'm looking at you, Curse of Strahd. I feel that this is a very positive step and probably the biggest positive in my opinion. Another positive is that the 2025 Monster Manual introduces some fantastic new creatures. For example, the Blob of Annihilation adds some really cool options, but the majority of the new creatures, with the exception of additional creature types, are for higher level gameplay mostly. Something that was sorely needed, even if you and the players will rarely use it. However, they also nerfed a bunch of the creatures, and not in ways, in my opinion, for the better. They removed certain resistances and immunities. Many of the creatures like demons and devils have lost their resistances to non-magical attacks in favor of higher hit points. I suppose this is to make it easier to run, and probably for newer DMs, but I don't really view this as an improvement. Another change that left me underwhelmed is the simplification of spell list for certain creatures. Spellcasting monsters like liches and archmages now have fewer spells, which feels like an oversimplification. I count it, and the lich from 2014 has 26 spells to choose from, compared to the lich from 2024 with a paltry 15. Even though some of these spells are now at will, it does feel like it takes away from the strategic depth that made these creatures so memorable. Changes might make some monsters easier to run, but they also strip away some of the flavor and challenge that made them iconic in the first place. There's a few positive changes to the stat block that will really help me in the heat of combat. Firstly, something that I haven't heard a lot of talk about is the simple addition of the initiative modifier with its own line to the stat block. I didn't even realize how much I needed this until I saw it. Secondly, a creature's ability modifiers and saving throw modifiers are now both listed next to their ability score. Previously, this was listed as a separate line below the ability scores and only when it was a different modifier. But really, this is a nice quality of life improvement. Each creature now lists the treasure table to use for it. While this is a nice change, it's a little underwhelming, in my opinion, as it's pretty generic. But I guess it's good jumping off point, and being more specific gets into the territory of defeating certain monsters to get a very specific magic item, like a video game. So I get it. This brings me to the lore section of creatures. I guess to fit more artwork in the book, they trimmed down the lore section for each creature by about half. It's disappointing they made this decision, as this kind of contradicts their hype that they wanted the core rule books to be individually self-contained sources of information, so you don't have to keep flipping back and forth between references. I personally find this a little disappointing, as I kind of like to weave some of that lore sometimes of creatures into my campaigns. Wizards of the Coast has also made efforts to update certain monsters to be more culturally sensitive. While this is a positive step, and personally I don't have a problem with the male succubus or anything else, I still had to look up what they were called so I could find them. Incubus, by the way. But if you feel strongly that Medusa should only be female, make them only female in your world. Who's stopping you? Overall, the 2025 Monster Manual is undeniably easier to use. The streamlined stat blocks and improved layout make it quicker for reference during a session, and the new encounter building section is also a helpful addition for DMs. They even have a monster conversion section for converting 2014 creatures to 2025 equivalents. However, be prepared that you'll possibly need to tweak encounters because of the vastly reduced number of things like resistances. In conclusion, the 2025 Monster Manual has its highs and lows. While the expanded creature types and stunning artwork are definite wins, the nerfs to resistances and simplification of spell list and the simplification of the lore feel like missed opportunities. It's a mixed bag, and whether it's worth the upgrade depends on what you value as a DM. What do you think of the changes? Are you excited about the new Monster Manual, or do you prefer the 2014 version? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more D&D content. Until next time, happy adventuring, and may all your rolls be nat 20.